Something big just changed in your Social Security check, and millions of Americans have no idea it happened. Starting in 2025, the Social Security Administration officially raised the maximum SSI payment to $1,330 per month for individuals and $1,803 per month for couples. And if you're not receiving these amounts, there's a very real chance you're being underpaid right now. Here's what the government isn't advertising on the evening news. SSI, Supplemental Security Income, is one of the most misunderstood and underclaimed federal benefits in the entire United States. Millions of eligible Americans over 65 are either receiving less than they qualify for or never applied at all, simply because nobody explained the real rules to them. These payments are not charity. They are federally funded, inflation-adjusted benefits that you have every legal right to claim, whether you've worked your entire life or not. In this video, we're going to break down exactly who qualifies, how these new amounts are calculated, what the income and resource limits actually mean in plain English, and the step-by-step process to make sure you or someone you love is getting every single dollar they're legally entitled to. Stay with us, because what you learn in the next few minutes could permanently change your monthly income. So let's start from the very beginning, because if you've been confused about SSI your whole life, you are not alone. The Social Security Administration runs two completely different programs, and most people, even people who've been collecting benefits for years, mix them up constantly. The first program is Social Security Retirement or Disability, which is based on your work history and the payroll taxes you paid over your lifetime. The second program is SSI, which stands for Supplemental Security Income, and this one works completely differently. SSI is a needs-based program, meaning it doesn't care how much you worked or how many years you paid into the system. What it cares about is your current financial situation, how much money you have coming in every month, and how much you have saved or own right now. That distinction is everything, and understanding it is the first step to knowing whether you qualify. Now, let's talk about who SSI is actually designed for. The federal government created SSI specifically to provide a financial floor, a guaranteed minimum monthly income, for three groups of people. The first group is people who are 65 years or older. The second group is people who are blind. The third group is people who have a qualifying disability that prevents them from working. If you fall into any one of these three categories and your income and resources are below the program limits, you may be entitled to receive SSI payments every single month. And with the 2025 adjustment, those payments now go up to $1,230 for an individual and $1,803 for an eligible couple living together. These are the federal base amounts, and they matter enormously because they represent real money that can cover rent, groceries, medications, and basic living expenses for Americans who need it most. Here's something that surprises a lot of people when they first hear it. You do not have to have worked a single day in your life to qualify for SSI. This is completely unlike Social Security retirement benefits, where your monthly check is calculated based on your earnings record. SSI has nothing to do with your work history. A person who never held a job, never paid payroll taxes, and has zero credits on their Social Security record can still receive full SSI payments as long as they meet the age or disability requirement and stay within the financial eligibility rules. This is incredibly important for women who spent their lives as homemakers, for people who dealt with disabilities from a young age, and for elderly immigrants who became U.S. citizens but didn't accumulate enough work credits for regular Social Security. SSI was built for exactly these situations, and far too many people in these situations don't know they qualify. Now let's get into the income rules, because this is where people get the most confused and where the most mistakes happen. The SSA looks at your income in two ways. The first is earned income, which means money you receive from working a job or running a business. The second is unearned income, which includes things like Social Security retirement checks, pension payments, rental income, interest from bank accounts, and financial support from family members. Here's the part that catches people off guard. Not all of your income counts against your SSI eligibility. The SSA actually excludes the first $20 of most income you receive each month. They also exclude the first $65 of earned income, and then they only count half of any earned income above that $65. This means if you have a small part-time job or receive a modest Social Security check, your SSI payment may be reduced but not necessarily eliminated. The system is designed to taper off gradually rather than cut you off entirely the moment you have any income at all. Let's put this into a real example so it makes sense. Say you're 67 years old, living alone, and you receive $400 per month from Social Security retirement benefits. That $400 is unearned income. The SSA subtracts that $20 general exclusion, so they count $380 against your SSI. They then take the maximum federal SSI amount of $330 and subtract that $380, which leaves you with an SSI payment of $950 per month. That means between your Social Security check and your SSI payment, you're bringing in $350 every single month. That's a meaningful difference in someone's life, and yet millions of people in exactly this situation aren't applying because they assume their Social Security check disqualifies them. It doesn't. It just reduces the SSI amount, and in many cases, there's still a substantial SSI payment waiting for them. The resource limits are the other major piece of the puzzle, and this is where a lot of people mistakenly think they don't qualify. The SSA sets a resource limit of $2,000 for an individual and $3,000 for a couple. Resources means things you own that could be converted to cash, bank accounts, stocks, bonds, cash on hand, and certain types of property. If your countable resources go above these limits, you won't qualify for SSI until you bring them back down. But here is what most people don't realize. The SSA excludes a huge number of things from this resource calculation. Your primary home, the house you live in, does not count as a resource no matter how much it's worth. One vehicle you use for transportation does not count. Personal belongings and household goods generally don't count. Life insurance policies with a face value under $1,500 don't count. Burial funds up to $1,500 per person don't count. These exclusions are critically important because someone might look at their situation and think they have too much, when in reality, their countable resources are well within the limit once these exclusions are applied properly. There's also the issue of state supplements, and this is a layer of SSI that almost nobody talks about in plain terms. The 1,330 and 1,803 figures are the federal base payment amounts set by the Social Security Administration. But here's the thing. Many states add their own money on top of the federal SSI payment. These are called state supplementary payments, and they vary significantly from one state to the next. States like California, New York, and Massachusetts are known for having generous state supplements that can add anywhere from a few dollars to over $100 on top of your federal SSI check every month. Other states pay nothing extra at all. This means two people with identical situations living in different states can receive very different monthly SSI amounts. If you live in a state that offers a supplement and you're not receiving it, that's additional money you may be entitled to claim. It's worth calling your local Social Security office or your state's social services agency specifically to ask about what your state offers on top of the federal amount. Now let's talk about something that affects a lot of seniors specifically, the living arrangement rules. The SSA pays very close attention to where you live and who you live with, because your living situation directly affects how much SSI you can receive. If you live in your own home or apartment and pay your own rent and food costs, you generally receive the full federal SSI amount. But if someone else is paying for your housing or food, say you're living in a family member's home rent-free and they're feeding you, the SSA considers that in-kind support and maintenance, and they can reduce your SSI payment by up to 1/3. This is called the 1/3 reduction rule, and it applies specifically when you're living in someone else's household and not contributing to your own food and shelter costs. However, if you're paying your fair share of the household expenses, this reduction doesn't apply. Understanding this rule and how it might affect your specific situation is absolutely worth a conversation with a Social Security representative before you assume your payment will be reduced. Let's also address something that causes enormous anxiety among SSI recipients and applicants: the question of marriage and how it affects benefits. If you are receiving SSI as a single individual and you get married, the SSA will reevaluate your eligibility and payment amount based on your combined household income and resources. Your spouse's income and resources will be partially counted against your SSI eligibility in a process called deeming. This doesn't automatically disqualify you, but it can reduce or even eliminate your SSI payment depending on your spouse's financial situation. On the flip side, if both you and your spouse are eligible for SSI, you can receive the couple's rate of $1,803 per month combined. This is less than two individual payments would be. Two individuals would get $2,660 combined, which is why some couples are surprised and frustrated when their combined payment drops after marriage. The SSA designed the couple's rate this way because they assume two people living together share expenses and therefore need less per person than two individuals living separately. It's a rule that catches people off guard, and it's worth knowing before making any major life decisions. One of the biggest questions people ask is about applying for SSI and what the process actually looks like. The first thing to understand is that SSI applications cannot be completed entirely online in most cases. You will need to contact the Social Security Administration directly. You can start the process by calling the SSA at 1-800-772-1213, which is their national toll-free number available Monday through Friday. You can also visit your local Social Security office in person, which many people actually prefer because it allows you to ask questions in real time and make sure your application is complete. When you apply, the SSA is going to ask you for a significant amount of documentation. They'll want proof of your age, your Social Security number, proof of citizenship or immigration status, information about all income sources, documentation of your resources, including bank account statements, information about your living arrangements, and if you're applying based on disability, medical records, and documentation of your condition, having all of this ready before you apply will speed up the process considerably because incomplete applications are one of the biggest reasons people experience long delays. Speaking of delays, the SSI application process is not fast. It can take anywhere from 3 to 6 months to receive a decision on a straightforward application, and if your case involves a disability determination, it can take considerably longer. This is frustrating, but it's the reality of the system, and there are a few things you can do to protect yourself during that waiting period. First, apply as soon as you think you might be eligible because SSI does not pay retroactively for months before you applied. Your payment start date is tied to when you submitted your application, not when the SSA approves it. So every month you wait to apply is a month of potential benefits you can never get back. Second, if you're denied, do not give up. A very large percentage of SSI applications are denied on the first attempt, and many of those denials are successfully overturned through the appeals process. You have 60 days from the date of your denial notice to file an appeal, and it is almost always worth pursuing. There's also a critically important program that connects directly to SSI called Medicaid, and this connection can be even more valuable than the cash payment itself for many seniors. In most states, if you're approved for SSI, you automatically become eligible for Medicaid, the federal and state health insurance program for low-income Americans. Medicaid covers doctor visits, hospital stays, prescription medications, nursing home care, home health services, and a wide range of other medical expenses with little to no out-of-pocket cost to you. For seniors managing chronic conditions, multiple prescriptions, or significant healthcare needs, Medicaid eligibility through SSI can be worth thousands of dollars per year in covered medical expenses. This is why financial advisors and elder care advocates consistently say that SSI is one of the most underutilized and most valuable programs available to low-income seniors in the United States, and why applying even if you're uncertain about your eligibility is almost always the right move. Finally, let's talk about what happens after you're approved and why staying on top of your case matters every single year. SSI is not a set-it-and-forget-it benefit. The SSA conducts periodic reviews called continuing disability reviews for recipients who qualified based on disability, and they also conduct periodic redeterminations for all SSI recipients to verify that your income, resources, and living arrangements still meet the eligibility requirements. If your financial situation changes, you inherit money, someone starts paying your rent, your Social Security benefit increases, you are required to report those changes to the SSA promptly. Failing to report changes can result in overpayments, which the SSA will then try to recover by reducing your future SSI checks. Staying proactive, reporting changes on time, and keeping records of everything you submit to the SSA will protect your benefits and keep your case in good standing year after year. The bottom line is this: 1,330 and 1,803 per month are real numbers, real federal dollars that are sitting in a program that millions of eligible Americans are not accessing right now. Whether it's because they didn't know they qualified, because they were confused by the rules, because they assumed their other income disqualified them, or because the application process felt too overwhelming to start, the money is there, and the program was built for people exactly like you. Now you know the rules, now you know the numbers, and now you have everything you need to take that first step.